Hi guys, so today I'm super excited to talk about a really fun topic that really hits home for me as someone who has been dealing with the autoimmune disease now for quite some time. I'm gonna wait till she gets on here to add her in when she comes on, and I think let's get her on. Why is this not working? Let that load. We made it!
We made it! Look at us. We did it. And of course, because would you expect any less? I'm like, should I just prop this up on my laptop? You know, I'm not big into the things that prop up my phone and, make things easier. It's not the
I,
way
I,
I roll.
I just set mine up on my sister's tripod. Not on mine. It's hers.
There we go. I am excited to chat with you. Those of you guys that are tuning in from my page, Maddie has been my client for a long time.
Time, yeah.
Like 3 years. Long time.
Yeah.
Long.
And Lacey has been my mentor this whole time and has been diving into the trauma, the somatic, the nervous system world. Are you getting the feedback on your phone?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it is my laptop. You know what we're gonna do? This is gonna be kind of fun. I'm just gonna prop it up here. I'm just gonna stand. We're gonna stand.
Okay.
Do this. This is how we're gonna roll. Are you surprised?
No, it works. It works. But yeah, Lacey has kind of been like I don't know, like how to say my shining light, I guess, through me. You have been with my autoimmune disease, and I think and I said this to you recently. The one thing that really piqued my ears about kind of the nervous system was like when I first got diagnosed, which we're pretty sure now was like a misdiagnosis of an autoimmune disease. They were like, here's medication, you'll be on it forever. And I'm like, cool, great, I guess I'm doing that. And when I first entered Lacey's world, just as like a business coach, like working on my business, she said that she healed her Hashimoto's. And I was like, what? Like the fact that you could heal something that a doctor would tell you you have to live with this forever. I was like, holy shit. Like that was like, how'd you do it? And then I remember you said something like I did a lot of, functional work. I did a lot of my body, my nervous system. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. And that was just, that was just like, I was like, tell me what to take or tell me, what food I need to stop eating, whatever it is, and I'll do it. And you said that when I first met you. So like 3-4 years ago, however long ago it was. And it took me until how long would you say? Like a year?
You and I really started to shift things towards summer of 2022. So coming up on 2 years, we really started to shift. Um, and you became more open to just exploring like what it would look like to bring in a nervous system component and even start learning about your nervous system. Um, and then, it just kind of transitioned from there. So, and I think if it's okay, um, you know, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism back in 2009. And it was always positioned. You're going to have this for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Take this pill. And not a single time did anybody ever talk to me about my nutrition, my exercise, like none of that, right? And so I did a really good job when I started my healing journey from, 2018 to like 2020, really focusing on my food, like the food and like nourishment component of having an autoimmune disease. And it improved, but it improved even more so when I added in just a deeper understanding of the prehistoric system that lives inside of each of us that is our nervous system. And, I know you identify as this, like you're a high achiever. You've been a high achiever your whole life.
Yeah.
I've been a high achiever my whole life. Anybody else here? You can be like, anybody else watching? Are you a high achiever? One of those people like the good kid, never got in trouble, easy to raise, good grades, you know, type A, people pleaser, always reliable. Those of us that identify as that.
So mature for their
So
age.
mature for their age,
Yep. An
never
old
any
soul.
trouble,
Yep.
the one you can count
Yep.
on, like all of those things,
Yep.
right? And so, that was me my whole life. Um, and those of us that identify, we often have, I like to say, there's like a little like rabbit on the inside of our body. And that rabbit is running fast all the time. It's running to make sure that people like us. It's running to make sure that we're good. It's running to make sure that we please everybody. It's running to make sure that we're the best. It's running to make sure we're this. It's running, right? And when you have an internal rabbit that's running, at some point, the body in which that rabbit lives gets tired. And that's where autoimmune disease sets in. I was in 2000, I can't do math very well, but like I was 29 years old in 2009. We're going to say I was 29 years old. Mm-hmm. And I was coming off a decade where I drank too much. I was a smoker for years. I stayed up too late. I ate a lot of ham and cheese sandwiches and Totino's pizzas, and I didn't treat my body very well. And it was like at 29, my body was just like, we are done doing this. Like, we're done doing this. And I see this so often in women. This is why this happens a lot of times in women in their 30s. Sometimes it happens like earlier. Like I know you presented with autoimmune conditions a lot earlier. It's different for everyone, but everybody has that point where their body just kind of goes like, yep, we're done. Yeah. And it's understanding there's a reason why. And some of it has to do with our food and our nutrition, but a lot of it has to do with that internal rabbit that's living inside of us. I like to say, how can we turn that internal rabbit inside of us? How can we make it be friends? That hare, how can we make it be friends with the tortoise? Or we can learn just to internally move a little bit slower.
And I think this conversation, before we go further, is like, it's going to be really helpful for even people who are like, I don't have an autoimmune disease. Well, unfortunately, with the way our medical system is and the way that a lot of us who maybe do categorize, or, the type A, the fast pace, you might not have one yet, because that takes time to brew. When you have the years, like for me, I got diagnosed, I keep saying quotation marks because like I don't believe any of the things I had. Like I don't think that was actually accurate. But before I was 21, like I couldn't walk when I was 21, so it hits us at different times because of what happens in the past with our body. So even if you were like, well, I don't have an autoimmune disease, this is still good information that can help, with other things. And if I had these tools like growing up, maybe I wouldn't be in the same position, that I am now. But, everything, I think things happen for a reason. And now I am in a much healthier place where I'm lowering my medication and, my business, my health, having healthier relationships, all is happening because of the work I'm doing with my nervous system.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be sick to do these things.
Yeah. No, and I've watched you claim so many parts of yourself and claim so many like things for yourself over the last like couple of years that we've worked together. Like it's one of those things. I think a lot of times, like you're a health coach. I was a health coach I've been a coach since 2010. So I coached health coaching for years. Now I do have a couple of health coaching clients. I have one health coaching client that I do somatic work with. Say a couple. I've got one.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. But, I mostly operate as a business mentor. But how you experience things in one part of your life is so interconnected. So like if you're somebody that experiences a lot of stress and overwhelm in the workplace, that is absolutely showing up in your personal life, and it's actually showing up in like your social life. Like it when we start talking about the nervous system, you realize that it's the tie between so many different things, and you start to recognize how you show up in different spaces. You start recognizing, I think we live in a society where we're so disconnected from our bodies. Yep. I use myself as an example. I was an endurance athlete I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2009. And then I took up, literally the doctor said, you need to diet and exercise. At the time I weighed like 94 pounds. And I took the diet advice and was like, okay, I'm going to start eating egg whites and going low carb, and I'm going to run a half marathon, which is absolutely positively what you should not do.
Right.
Um, but I, was an endurance athlete for years, and I, I kind of claimed like I have a very high pain tolerance. Well, it's not that I had a super high pain tolerance. I was just that disconnected from my actual body that I can endure just about anything, right? And
Yeah.
so many people walk around like that. Like they're not even fully tuned in to how much discomfort their body is in. And that's what, like, I can tell you, like, I was officially diagnosed when I was 29, but I started having major autoimmune symptoms when I was 19, when I was a freshman, senior, like spring semester of my freshman year in college, back in the spring of 2002.
What
7
were
full
your symptoms?
years. What
What
were
were
my
your symptoms?
symptoms?
Yeah.
I was having major eczema outbreaks. I got mononucleosis that took me out for like 3 solid weeks. I never really recovered. I was losing feeling in my fingers. I was having stress to the point where like my eyesight was going. I got glasses for a while. There were all of these things that were sure signs that there was an inflammatory response going on in my body. And the response that I got from the medical community was to start giving me steroid shots on the regular. I just got steroid shots a few times a year for like a long time.
Because that works.
Yeah, because that works long term.
Yeah.
That
I
was just what they
remember.
did.
Right. I had so my rheumatologist slash dermatologist said, "Oh, you have psoriasis." And then and they put me on a steroid cream. And if anyone's familiar with using a steroid cream, it works, but it also thins out your skin. So like you shouldn't be, bathing in it. But of course, that's what I was doing because who wants to have like an itchy scalp, 24/7? And it would happen when I was more stressed, more this, more that. And it turns out it is a yeast overgrowth, and I've been slowly working on it, and it's been getting better, and I haven't used steroid in months, in almost a year now.
Yeah.
And it has gotten better, but it always bums me out, and I think about it. I'm like, okay, so if I don't have psoriasis, because it's not psoriasis, then what do I have? Like, why did they put me on this medication? And at the time, like every time I tell my story, I always say like, getting on Humira saved my life at that time because I was so broken. I couldn't walk. I dropped out of school because I just had no desire to do anything. So taking something to get me back literally to being able to walk was the choice I had to make. And now that I have more of a capacity and I was more open and supported, then I could venture on to figuring out, okay, what's like the root cause of this? But I always think it's really discouraging because you and I both talk to just because we tell our story and people are like, oh, I have that too. Tons of women who are going through something similar or the same, and they're like, well, my doctor said this or my doctor said that, and they don't address like anything that's actually happening,
Yeah.
with their health.
Yeah. Modern medicine can be a beautiful gift. Like, I was on steroid creams, and, I still to this day, I have to use one from time to time. Like, I want to let people know, I think there's this fallacy that we finally all of a sudden just get healed and everything gets better. And that's not always the case. Like, I live a very, what some would call a more stressful life. Like, I am a 41-year-old mom of 2 special needs children. I have a son. I don't have a son. What is going on? What day is it? Is it Saturday? It's Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday. Um, I have a daughter on the autism spectrum, and I have another daughter with cerebral palsy. And so our life is complicated, right? And so there are some moments where, I do still need some medical intervention. Modern medicine can be a beautiful and brilliant thing, but it's not the only thing. And we have so much more control than we give ourselves credit for. And if you completely neglect your nutrition, if you completely neglect how you move your body, if you completely neglect that your nervous system could be dysregulated due to things that you experienced as a child, things that you experienced in young adulthood, things that you experienced in your teenage years, all of those experiences factor in to the issues that we have later in life, right? And so while modern medicine can help us, like, that was a beautiful thing. Like, what a savior that you were able to get on Humira. It doesn't solve the problem. And I think there's this really big fallacy that, like, that I see women say all the time, like, oh, well, I'm just on Synthroid, or oh, like, I'm already just on this. Like, that's the only thing. When in reality, there's a lot that you can do to support your body. And at some point, you could, not everybody can, but you could get to the point where you don't need as much of or the medication altogether. Is that everybody's story? No, but it can be a lot more people's story than they give it credit for.
No, I agree. And it's just kind of like I think it's also having to do with like white coat syndrome. Like when the doctor said to me, like I asked him, like, is there anything I could do with my food? This was like before I became a coach. He's like, no, not really.
Mm.
Like, what?
No, there's absolutely nothing you can do with your food. Nothing.
Nothing. I tell this story all the time. He told me just not to gain and lose weight like Oprah Winfrey, verbatim. That's what he told
Oh, that's
me.
helpful. I love that advice for
I
you.
love this specific
Yeah,
example.
we gotta love the imagery there with that.
What for you was like the awakening? Like,
Mm.
oh, there is something like deeper in me that I need to
Mm.
address.
Yeah. So, and I was talking to another client about this today. There were little Easter eggs. I know you're not a Taylor Swift fan. There were little Easter eggs of things that were dropped on me throughout my life. Like one from a boss who just was like, "There's something energetically that's like is actually like really open with you or really closed," and that kind of got me thinking that there was like something going on. Um, and then for me, there was a moment when I was in a group program for business when I heard my now somatic experiencing practitioner speak. And the way he spoke, I was like, oh, I learned about this in college and I wasn't connecting the dots that like some of this stuff was showing up in my adult life. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, oh, like there's something here. And once I started digging and learning, it's all the light bulbs started going off. I started connecting all of the dots. And I've literally not stopped connecting the dots since like those moments in like the fall of 2020. Like I had been on my healing journey for 2 years at that point. It was 2018 when I met the first practitioner that really started to help me dissect like what was going on with my autoimmune condition and got me part of the ways with changes to my diet, changes in supplementation, changes in my exercise. But it was that moment in 2020 when I started to learn about the nervous system and started to piece together everything that I had learned in college about attachment theory, that the light bulbs started to go off. And I realized that there was so much inside my body that held the key to like the next season of healing. I think this is like a lot of times women, they look outside of themselves for the answer. They're looking for a pill. They're looking for the perfect diet. They're looking for the perfect exercise routine. They're looking for the perfect medication. They're looking outside of themselves, and things outside of you can help.
Yeah.
But the true things are having the capacity to access what's already inside of you, to access your own self understanding, your own self compassion, your own self healing, your own ability to like view yourself from a place of curiosity versus shame. That's probably the biggest thing, especially for my people pleasers. We so easily revert, and this makes us sick long term. We so easily revert to self beratement, right? Like, oh, I messed that up. I did this wrong. Oh, I can't do anything right. Oh, I'm so frustrated with this. Oh, I'm so that like we move to that space so quickly when we can learn to access, I really wonder why I keep like messing this up. I really wonder why I keep falling into this pattern. And instead of like going like, oh, you always do this, you go like, I wonder why I always do this. The body actually responds so much better when we meet ourselves with curiosity versus like immediate like taking on shame. I wrote a post over a year ago. And sometimes I write things and I'm like, there's a lot of people that are not going to get this. But I said that shame is actually the exhaustion sauce of life.
I remember that.
Because anytime you bring on shame, you're creating like a layer of extra goop that you got to carry around. And the more times you carry and layer on that goop, the heavier it is going to be to carry. And that's what eventually makes us sick. And so when we can start to recognize that we can access meeting ourselves with curiosity versus meeting ourselves with shame and like derision and being, I like to say, being an asshole to yourself, when we can meet ourselves that way, we actually things just turn out so much better.
And I think even like probably women who are still finding themselves like shaming themselves for their food choices or things like that, like I'm never gonna get to where I don't, like I think I'm not gonna speak for you, but like for myself, like I've gotten over that part of my journey. Now it's like, okay, let's stop shaming myself for things happening in my business or happening in my life. Like it's a journey to get to all the points to where you're not doing that. So like, don't get frustrated at yourself. I mean, I do all the time. Like, why am I not over this yet, or why am I still doing that? But I've been on this part of my health journey for what I said like 2 years now, and every time I dig deeper into it and do something different and find a different method that helps me kind of unlock something more, like a big one for me has been like sound baths, like that noise, just like my brain just like completely goes like to goop, which is a good thing. It's hard for me to do that. But when you find things that help you do that, like keep leaning into them and you'll get to that point where you're not berating yourself constantly. But it's a journey, like nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things. I heard it said in one of the trainings that I'm in recently. It's like our whole life is like a spider web. And when you pluck one string, the whole web starts to shake.
Yeah.
And so we realize that so much of what we experience is interconnected. And when you surrender to the fact that everything that we experience is interconnected, it's much easier to surrender and go, I'm never going to be a finished product. I think that's one thing that women struggle with so hard. It's like they want to go into something with a finish line. They want to be like, I want to know that I'm going to purchase this and I'm going to get this result and it's going to be done forever and it's just going to be fine. And the body doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And that expectation is actually what's keeping women running that internal hamster, because they're just going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing, looking for the thing that's going to be the thing that's going to heal them, to solve their problem. And there's life is just a journey full of things to unravel. Like, I don't want to say life is just a journey of problems, but like in essence, it kind of is. Like and once you kind of regulate to that, once you kind of realize like we're all just one big unboxing, and we're never going to get to like the box is just going to get smaller and smaller, but there's still going to be another box to open. Once you surrender to that, like you actually fall in love with the process. Like I'm genuinely in love with the process of learning more about why I do the things I do. Like even today, I had a conversation with my mentor and I was typing something and I was like, oh, there it is. This is exactly why. This is exactly why this is exactly why this is showing up. And once I was out, I was like, boom, now I can actually move through this issue. But I had to give that. And you know what? Another thing will pop up, and it's the surrender to like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to continue to solve these problems and it'll be okay. I get really, really good at it. I get faster at it. And that's one of the reasons that when you don't spend so much time dwelling, you're less sick. You want to know, like the key to like moving through autoimmunity is not spending so much time in that space of like just feeling so bad about yourself. I was so sick from 2019 to like 2016, 2017. I was so sick, but I spent so much time embodying that I was a sick person. I spent so much time being a victim, like, oh, I would be a better endurance athlete if I wasn't sick. I would be a better this if I wasn't sick. I'd be a better this. Like I was in love with the problem. I was in love with having an autoimmune disease. It was the crutch. When I decided that I didn't need that crutch anymore and that I didn't have to identify with that crutch anymore, just that probably did more for my healing than anything else.
And why do you think that? Was it like just like the grip you had on it?
Our energy goes where our attention flows. So if we're giving all of our attention to own this ownership of like, I am a sick person, if we embody that that's just who we are, we're giving that our power and our energy. I stopped believing that I had Hashimoto's. I started believing I am currently in this, my body is in a state of Hashimoto's. There's a difference. I didn't have it. I was currently in a state of it. And when I'm just in a state of it, I can actually move out of that state. You and anybody, like anybody can. You have like, but there is a decision, and your actions have to align with that decision.
Yeah.
My actions started to align with that decision. And over a 2-year period, I started becoming somebody that didn't live with Hashimoto's. I've never tested with Hashimoto's ever again since then. Hypothyroidism, we've bounced in and out. You know, it happens. It's a stress response, and mama's got a stressful life. But I understand that my power is in the ability to regulate it.
I wonder, since it's just something on topic, but because of kind of understanding like, oh, I don't have psoriasis, and then I just kind of get thinking, and lately I've just been like, I don't think I actually have psoriatic arthritis. I wonder if that's been kind of like healing in a sense for me, because I don't feel so attached to that. I mean, before I started coaching, like I feel like everything, my life revolved around having psoriatic arthritis, and I was, I went, why can't I think of it? Pescatarian. I went pescatarian. I went gluten-free. I mean, I did everything possible that I thought before I knew what I was doing, because I had an autoimmune disease. And I think in turn, like, I was like winding myself up, because like in the back of my mind, I had like my doctor's voice saying like, this medication won't work forever. And like, I'm like, what am I going to do when it, runs out, so to speak? And I think that was probably more damaging than it was now. And I look back, I'm like, I was just more stressed out, I think, when I got diagnosed compared to where I am now.
Yeah.
Because I don't hold on to that diagnosis anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing when we can give up that thing that's held power over us for so long, but it's trusting yourself to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, so many, I work with women that want to lose weight. I work with women that want to grow $1 million businesses. And the same common denominator is the fact there's got to be a large amount of self-trust. Like, and you cannot access self-trust if your nervous system is dysregulated. If you're living in constant fight or flight, you're not going to be able to trust your body. If you're living in complete shutdown, where you feel like you can't get off the couch, you can't be consistent, you feel like you're just there. If you're living in freeze, where you're like, I know I need to, but I can't. I know I need to, but I can't. I know I need to, but I can't. If you're living in that, you're not going to trust yourself.
Right.
You're not. And so you can't actually access the aliveness that you want to experience if you're in that internal constant battle. But when you can actually just stop the battle or spend less time battling, then you start to trust yourself. And you actually can listen to your intuition. Your intuition is not strong when you're in constant fight or flight, freeze, or shutdown. But when you are calm, you can access it. And then you know what you need to do. And then you cultivate self-trust.
Oh, we could talk about this forever.
Me too. I could talk about it forever.
I know. Well, and partially because, like, I think it's like kind of like when you find something that really, really helps you and is like helping you on your journey, like you just like want everyone to experience that and see, oh, this is what's really helpful. So when people tell me, like, I don't specifically work with women with autoimmune diseases. That's not like what I, what I love to work with, because there's a lot to them. But, every woman has some type of thing going on with their health that they're unsure about, and there's always some component with their nervous system, or just like with functional health, that you can add in that's going to make it better in some aspect. And like the nervous system, just box breathing, even for me, just simply box breathing, like I knew about it, I didn't really practice that much, but when I started actually doing the thing that's going to help me feel better, like it was a life changer. Total life changer just with that.
Yeah.
What has been in terms of like regulating your nervous system, what is like two favorite tools, and I'm pretty sure I know them, but go ahead, tell everyone.
I I still to this day, I access my body best through a little bit of discomfort. So I have an acupressure mat. Sometimes I will stand on it, which is not comfortable. Sometimes I will lay on it, which is more likely. And that allows me just to like really feel. There's something about it. I want to say there's no right or wrong way to regulate. Like different things can regulate different people. That for me works. Um, I do, a lot of just like laying on my mat and just kind of centering myself. I love to do a lot of like hip opening stretches. That's something that's like a go-to, especially for me in the morning if I have a more activating morning. I do a lot of box breathing, especially if I'm in a public place. I'll do some tapping if I need to. Um, for me right now, my most regulating tool is walking. I, I, I walk. I like to walk. Um, I like to get in at least 30 minutes of intentional walking every single day. Um, Outside, if I can, I like to walk. I like to be out. I like to walk. I like to be out in the breeze. I like to walk. I'm wondering I was like, oh, I wonder which of my children coming into the.
Some of the ones that I've liked is box breathing, the tapping one that you taught us. Really enjoyed that one, just kind of tapping all over your body. Anytime I have like sat, like right now I'm in Denver and there's like a lake like right next to the apartment, and just sitting in front of the lake, that is super regulating, looking at the mountains, stuff like that. But just finding something that you can access, it's like literally within, your area, I think is super helpful just to,
Yeah.
continue that and start growing that.
Yeah.
Lacey has a program, and I didn't tell her I was going to shout this out, but I really wanted to because I'm in it and I really liked it. And it helps you learn about your nervous system. Tell us more about it.
Yeah. So I am currently in the last week finishing up round one of a program called 30 Days to Regulate. And the whole premise behind this is to teach women about their nervous system, about these regulating tools, and about trauma in a really simple, bite-sized fashion. Because I think sometimes it gets really so many women are already overwhelmed, and when they're like, oh, I gotta learn about this now, it's so hard, right? So I tried to take it and break it into small, bite-sized, like 5 to 15 minute pieces over 30 days to give people the education that they need to understand this prehistoric system that lives in all of us. And I do it from the framework as a health and fitness coach because I know so many of the women that are going to join me, they want to lose weight. They want to change the shape of their body. They want to eat better. They want to feel better. And then I know there's a lot of coaches because I think there's a lot of coaches in the space. They need to understand these tools because that's how they're going to be able to help you better. I want to help. My main mission in life is that I want women to be healthier, happier, and more fulfilled in general, which is why, and I realized I couldn't do that by me just coaching women. I had to actually coach coaches that coach women. And so it's there. I have coaches in there. I have women that are just, working regular lives, mothers, not entrepreneurs. And we just take pieces and learn about this system. I have another round starting June 3rd. It is in pre-sale right now. You can sign up for $99 or 2 payments of $55. And the link is actually in my bio. So you can head over to my bio and you can sign up. I'll be adding everybody to the new group as we get closer. I'm closing out round one. We start our integration group next week. I'm doing an integration group for the first time. And I'm just so excited. And I'm so pleased with all of the feedback that I've gotten from women all over the world. We had almost 100 women in this cohort. And I've been so pleased with how people have received the information. I'm actually, as soon as we get off this, I'm going to go do my daily drop for 30 Days to Regulate. I drop in there Monday through Friday, just giving little bits and pieces of the education that we're learning about.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I mean, these things that we've talked about, like in our coaching container together, but hearing them in a different way that, I have a couple clients that are in it too, and they have given me feedback and really liked it, but it helps me as a coach be better to help you guys that are, struggling, and I'm seeing what, if you're in freeze or things like that and how to better help you and, not just be like, do this thing, and it's not going to work because you're just dysregulated. You're not in the open space to take that information and act on it.
Yeah.
So I think that's super important. And of course, because it's only going to help people that maybe have an autoimmune disease or might think they do or experiencing these type of things in their life already. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Well, I love
great.
you. I thank you for having me on.
Oh, thanks. It was a good conversation. So, yeah, make sure, guys, to go sign up because you probably need it. Everyone needs it. And yeah, it was super great. So let us know if you have any questions. This will be on YouTube and everywhere, so people will probably can drop in more questions there. And we will talk soon. Probably. I'll probably message you after this.
Would love it. Love you. Have a good day.
All right, bye, guys.